to the Montgomery County Department of Permitting Services podcast. I'm Gail Lucas, your host. Joining us on the podcast today is Roger Waterstreet, who is a plan reviewer in our zoning division and our resident sign guru in Montgomery County. Welcome to the podcast, Roger.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Before we begin, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your job is, what you do at DPS?
As a reviewer, I'm responsible for reviews of residential and commercial projects, which includes review of sign applications to assure compliance with the Sign Ordinance. In addition, I'm staff liaison to the Sign Review Board.
Okay. The Sign Ordinance is part of the Montgomery County Zoning Ordinance, correct? Tell us what the ordinance does and why it's important.
It's the intent of the Sign Ordinance to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community through certain objectives, such as to encourage the effective use of signs,
Okay.
To promote economic development,
Sure.
to identify buildings in geographic areas, and to promote public safety.
How does the Sign Ordinance promote public safety?
It sets limits on where signs can be placed.
Okay, sure.
And also, it also sets restrictions on signage in the public right-of-way that
Okay,
might
okay.
interfere with vehicle safety or pedestrian safety.
Okay, that makes all kinds of sense. Why don't you tell us what's allowed and what's not allowed when it comes to signs? Because we see signs all over. We see signs on buildings. We see signs advertising all kinds of things. So tell us what the ordinance provides.
There are basically two levels of signs, permanent and temporary.
Okay.
Permanent are signs which are intended to be displayed indefinitely,
Okay.
requires a permit, and is subject to height, size, and location restrictions.
Yes.
Temporary are signs that would be displayed on a short-term basis, perhaps to announce a yard sale
Sure.
or another special event that would be installed and removed within a 90-day period.
Okay. I notice in Montgomery County that you don't see, I don't even know what the technical term is or what it is, moving signs that have scrolling information, or you see very few of those. Are those allowed in Montgomery County?
The digital signs are permitted with restrictions,
Okay.
and that being that the message is time limited, and there cannot be any movement within that certain time frame,
Okay.
so as to reduce the possibility of distraction
Sure. Sure.
to motorists.
What other types of signs are prohibited in Montgomery County?
There are a few, one being a sign that's attached to the property of others who
Okay.
the property owner did not give permission. That would be a sign maybe on a fence or a tree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always important that before a sign is installed that you get the permission of the property owner.
Okay.
Another type of sign would be an unsafe sign, a sign that may have electrical or structural issues
Okay.
that creates a hazard.
Sure. What do you look for when you get applications? All of our applications, again, are online. The sign application is online. So someone wanting a sign would have to apply through our e-services portal. But what are you looking at when you get these sign applications?
Well, once the permit application goes through the screening process to assure that it's complete, the reviewer will look at the size of the sign, the height of the sign, and where
Okay.
the sign is located
Okay.
to verify that the sign is conforming to the sign ordinance. And so that's dependent on the zone of the property. A sign in a commercial zone would have different requirements as opposed to a sign in a residential zone.
Sure. What types of signs do we have in Montgomery County? We see signs on buildings, freestanding signs. What kind of signs
Well,
do we typically
those are
see?
the two basic type,
Okay.
the wall-mounted signs,
Okay.
and then the other type is a freestanding sign. That's a sign that's self-supported. And you might see a freestanding sign at an entrance to a property that would
Okay.
identify that location.
Sure. And if my sign is lighted, I not only need a sign permit, but I also need an electrical permit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right. We have to make sure that the sign meets the requirements of the electrical code.
Okay. Do signs have to meet setbacks and property line restrictions, those kinds of things?
That's more applicable to a freestanding sign.
Okay.
When a freestanding sign is installed at the perimeter of a property,
Okay.
we have to review that location to verify that it is meeting the setback requirement. And part of the reason for that is that it's not going to be right up by the property line where it might create an obstruction
Okay.
for sight line for
Right.
traffic.
Right. What if I can't meet those requirements? Is there a way? Is there a sign variance? How would I go about saying my sign can't meet those necessarily requirements, but maybe it can meet some other requirements? How would someone apply for that?
There is a variance process
Okay.
that an applicant can submit a sign variance application, and it would be accepted by DPS and then scheduled for public hearing before the sign review board.
Okay.
The sign review board has the authority to grant a variance in certain situations.
Okay.
The only category of signs that they're not permitted to review and decide on are prohibited signs.
Okay. And you are the liaison to the sign review board. Tell us what the sign review board does.
The sign review board is a 5-member body who are appointed by the county executive
Okay.
and confirmed by the county council. They are residents of Montgomery County,
Mm-hmm.
and it's required that at least one member be an architect
Okay.
and be licensed, and also the other member must be a business owner.
Okay.
So we get a wide, spectrum of representatives that would hear the sign variance applications.
Does the sign review board look at all sign applications or just those needing variances?
Just the sign variance applications.
Okay.
A DPS staff would review the sign permit applications.
How often does that board meet?
The board meets monthly.
Okay. Do we get that many sign variance applications?
It varies
Okay.
depending on circumstances. We may have 2 or 3 one month, and we may have 6 or 7 the next month. So it's really dependent on the timing, of the applicant's submission.
Okay. And we've talked about how a customer would apply for a sign. They would need to do that through our e-services. Our permit applications are electronic. But how much does a sign permit cost?
The current fee is $373.
Okay. And how long is that valid for?
The sign permit is valid for the life of the sign.
Okay.
So there is no renewal required annually for this sign permit. It's just as long as the business is there and
Okay.
occupying that location, and the sign remains the same, meaning it's not altered
Okay.
or moved, that permit is valid for that sign.
What if I want to revise my sign or if I want to alter my sign? How would I revise my permit?
One would need to submit a sign permit application because
Okay.
it would have to go again through the review process because if the sign were to be altered, enlarged,
Right.
moved, it has to go through that review. So it would require a new sign permit.
So, what tips do you have for folks that are considering signs? Tell me what is important for people to know.
It's important that you plan ahead.
Right.
Okay, be prepared. Okay, do your research. Very important that you gather all the information and contact DPS if you have questions so that we get a complete application and then that application can go right into review which would cut down on any delays.
What's included in the sign permit application? What do I need to make sure that I'm submitting to
Along with
DPS?
the sign permit application, it would require, for a wall sign, it would
Okay.
require building elevation drawing showing
Okay.
placement of the sign, and it would require a detailed drawing of the sign showing dimensions and any other characteristics of the sign, a current photo of the sign location,
Okay.
and landlord authorization.
Okay.
And that would be it. If it's electrical, again, as we spoke of, it would require an electrical permit to accompany
Okay.
that permit application.
And so those requirements are the same whether it's on the building or freestanding?
Well, the only difference with freestanding is because it's off of the building and on site, it requires
Right.
a site plan.
Okay.
So that's where we're
Okay.
going to check for that setback
Okay.
requirement.
Okay. Anything else folks ought to know about signs if they're considering placing signs? Anything else they need to know?
I would again just reiterate, be informed and, contact the Department of Permitting Services. We're a resource that, can provide the information
Sure.
up front to you so that in your planning, for a business owner, I would certainly emphasize that you hire a licensed professional installer.
Okay.
Who knows the business, and often they know the permit process,
Sure.
which could be a great assistance in getting through that
Mhm.
process to obtain a permit.
Roger, I know you've been working with signs for a long time. Tell us a good sign story.
Well, as you can probably imagine, I've seen a lot of signs that have
Yes.
come through the permitting process, some creative and compliant.
Some creative.
But one that really stands out, probably in my time at DPS, was the shark sign,
Okay.
and that was a shark that was placed on the upper floor of a high-rise building in downtown Silver Spring
Right. I
during
remember
National Shark Week. Drew a lot of interest, and it was there for approximately a month. But it got a lot of attention because you had the shark head on one end of the building, you have a
Right.
tail on the other end of the building, as if the shark was passing through the building.
I remember that sign. I remember
course you
Shark
do.
Week. Yes, it did get a lot of attention.
Right.
Thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Waterstreet.
My
Roger. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today. Remember, DPS is here to help you, our customer, succeed. It's important to know when you need a permit and why you need a permit. If you have questions or if you need information, please contact our customer call center at 240-777-0311. Or you can come into the DPS offices at 2425 Reedy Drive. We're on the 7th floor, and we're here Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. There's always someone here that can talk with you, can get you to the right person, and help you get your questions answered. Thank you again for joining us, Roger Waterstreet. Thank you for joining us. You have an idea for a topic or have a question you'd like to see answered on the podcast? Please send that to dps.podcast@montgomerycountymd.gov. And you can always get information about signs, about all of the permits that DPS issues on our DPS website. Please help us spread the word about our podcast. Subscribe and have your friends and family subscribe so that you always get our latest episode. I'm Gail Lucas. Thank you for joining us on our podcast. Remember, DPS is your project partner.
This podcast is brought to you by County Cable Montgomery, your source for news and information from the Montgomery County government. Connect with us via cable, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube by searching for County Cable MoCo.